Well, to discuss further, we're now joined in studio by Home Affairs Acting Director General Thulani Mavuso. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Mavuso.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting us.
Is the Home Affairs Minister a bit embarrassed because this ostensibly caused damage to the already fragile South African economy? It's been in place for 3 years. Now we're going back.
No, I don't think we could say the minister should be embarrassed, because there's nothing to be embarrassed about. The issue here, what we were doing at the time when we were implementing, we were trying to ensure that there's policy coherence. If you recall that there's Children's Act, if you look at Section 18(3)(c) of the Children's Act, it makes it very clear that there are consents that must be given by parents. For example, if a parent is applying for a child's passport, you cannot just come and apply for a minor's passport without the consent of the other parent. It's written in black and white in the Children's Act. Similarly, with the issue of the removal of the children from the Republic, it is in the Children's Act. So what Home Affairs was doing at the time was ensure that there's policy and legislative coherence, because you do not want to have an act of parliament that is talking something else and the other department is doing something to the contrary. So that's what we're doing at the time when we're introducing the immigration regulation. Obviously, when people talk about...
You haven't mentioned anything about carrying around an unabridged birth certificate. Very hard to do for parents across the world. And we know that it's had an impact on tourism.
Yes, but obviously that was a mechanism. Remember, you need a mechanism to be able to verify, to say that when you are removing the children from the Republic, are you the right parent to be able to remove this? Because, for example, I can take a child who is a Mavuso, but it's not my child. It's my brother's child or my sister's child with the same surname, and then remove that child from the Republic. So that is why the unabridged birth certificate was used as a mechanism in order for us to verify. But I think we've moved further.
But if this really was the right intervention for human trafficking, we wouldn't be changing it, correct?
No, we're not changing it. I think it must be very clear. Maybe I think there's misinterpretation here. What we have done when it comes to specifically the children, we are saying that we are now introducing a passport that will have the details of parents. India has been doing that for many years. What it does is that you print a passport of a minor, it has what we call the details of both parents, or a parent in the case of a single parent. I must also make it very clear, we're not forcing people to have two parents in a document. If you're a single parent and paternity has not been acknowledged, you will definitely, obviously, be the only parent that appear in that particular document.
Sure.
So you don't have to go and apply for an unabridged birth certificate.
But the impact on tourism has been the onerous requirements on parents coming in.
Yes, let me explain, I think,
so what happens
that
there?
part. Well, with parents coming into South Africa, or foreign nationals who are tourists, for an example, what we have obviously going to be introducing is that there will be no requirement for them to carry an unabridged birth certificate. But they should, once we will issue it for a travel advisor, once the Immigration Advisory Board obviously finishes their work. But what we will do with that, we will not require those parents to produce an unabridged birth certificate. But in an event where you are required to produce some document as a form of showing relationship with that particular child, we're saying that actually there could be different types of documentation that you can produce. I made actually a very easy example to somebody else who was asking me during the day. I said, if I travel with my child maybe to a country that requires me to prove that is my child, if I had to produce my medical aid card, for example, I'm a main member, my child appears under me. So some form of verification. So really we're not going to just leave things as they are, because child trafficking is a real phenomenon and we cannot turn a blind eye on that. But we are going to say that in certain instances when we are required at the airport, the immigration official must say, look, we flagged this particular individual, and then we're going to pull them aside and be able to do
But
those
Mr. Mavuso, with respect, the problem was the unabridged birth certificate. It was very hard for parents to get hold of that and to travel. We are backtracking. Why did it take 3 years?
Okay, let's separate the two. We've now dealt with the issue relating to the children who are coming from outside, who are foreign nationals, right? So I think we're clear with that matter that you're not going to require an unabridged birth certificate for those.
Yes.
But for South Africans...
Why did it take 3 years to drop that onerous requirement?
But again, it's an issue that we needed to negotiate and discuss within government. We had met with the Department of Tourism.
The economy. The tourism minister at one stage was saying this is damaging tourism that creates jobs in South Africa.
Well, I think we can debate those particular issues and bring pros and cons, but I do not want to get into that because Cabinet has exhausted discussion on this matter. There has been a clear agreement between Cabinet on how this matter needs to be taken forward. That is why last Thursday there was a pronouncement from Cabinet. But what I'm trying to say to you now is that we have actually made it easy, even for South Africans, that every child who's born today They get their certificates, on the spot when they register the birth. It has all the details of the parents. So moving forward, we're not having that particular problem. You might have a few backlogs.
But sir, my question is, why did it take so long? Our president even called this nonsensical. Why did it take the Chinese president speaking to our president for this onerous requirement to be dropped?
But that's why I'm saying, when it comes to issues relating to policy and legislation, it's just not an overnight issue that you can just say, because there's been a complaint of 1, 2, 3, then I'm just going to drop this issue. There are issues that needed to be considered. That is why I'm explaining to you that we had to be realistic about the phenomenon relating to child trafficking, and we still stand by that point. About 2 weeks ago, we found people who were bundled in a truck, in Limpopo, being
sure, but it was obviously the wrong intervention, otherwise it wouldn't be changed. Can I address something? The CEO of the Tourism Business Council says that you're still recommending to those foreign travelers that they bring an unabridged certificate as a best option. Is that correct?
No, we're saying that they need to bring a form of proof that they are related to the child that they're traveling with. Obviously, that form of proof has not been determined whether it's going to be an unabridged birth certificate or not. I'm explaining to you that we have a meeting of the Immigration Advisory Board in October. That obviously the type of documentation will be determined as such. But we are saying we're not going to make it onerous. That is also, we're not going to make it to be an unabridged birth certificate that is the only proof that we'll need for those foreign travelers. I think it's going to be easy. I think we should not really be making a big issue out of something that we have actually negotiated within government. We've listened to the stakeholders. We've looked at what the Minister of Tourism was raising. Both ministers have sat down and dealt with this issue. But to say that, why did we? I think the issue is that let's move forward as a country to say now we're implementing these issues. We're taking these issues serious. We understand that we need to grow tourism, because remember, we exist to ensure, one, that we manage migration for economic development, we manage migration for the security of the country. Because if we drop the element of security, you'll remember there are countries that eventually...
Nobody's asking you to drop security. The issue for me was that the wrong intervention was not overturned in a period of 3 years while it was causing damage. Can we move on? If there's no certainty, how long will it take to tell those foreign parents what they need? Because obviously you're not going to get on a plane if you're not very sure as to what the South African government requires.
Again, I've indicated, the minister said by the end of October we'll be issuing the international travel advisory, because we are waiting for the meeting of the Immigration Advisory Board that makes those determinations. But already we have made a submission. The board will make a decision, and then we'll make an announcement at the end of October to say what are those requirements that will be needed from those parents coming from those countries.
All right, and I think we have an example here on the screen. Yes. Perhaps you can look over there and just explain this. This is for South African parents now and having kids that need to travel.
Yeah, what we've done is that we've added a new page in our passport, obviously, which has details of parents. That's what I was explaining. It's a concept that obviously say India does it. So South Africa, we've said, in order for us not to burden the parents with the unabridged birth certificate, this will be the passport that they will be carrying. So as we move forward gradually, obviously this is what will be the only requirement that they will take to the airport when they travel with the children. And obviously the parental consent if both parents are not present in that particular trip.
So can we say we're at least heading towards a smooth process? I mean, I was at OR Tambo shortly after these regulations were introduced, and there were lines and chaos, seemingly now unnecessary.
Well, again, you would have to have an appreciation that when there is a change in any process, for people to adapt, not only the travelers themselves, even officials, there's issues of adaptation. We train them, but I think at the end of the day, once they get used to it, it becomes very smooth. Currently, it's very smooth. I was traveling also last weekend. I stopped, I took about 30 minutes, standing there to ensure that I see how travelers are being processed. I was quite happy with what I saw with the officials.
And are we going to go far enough? Because companies have been crying out for years for skilled workers. Are we going to push it and ensure that people who need to get visas can get the visas?
Oh, definitely. Look, one of the things that I think we must acknowledge, when it comes to short-term visas, I think we have improved in terms of the turnaround time. when it comes to issues relating to intra-company visa, the work visas, those have quite improved. The critical skills visa also, we have shortened the period, for us to be able to issue critical skills visas. The issue I think that maybe companies were mainly complaining about is that sometimes people had to submit those documentation in person. We opened about 3 premium visa centers in South Africa. One is number 1 Sandton Place, where actually all businesses are encouraged to go there when they apply for company-related visa. We have a corporate accounts unit where all big companies affiliate. That is run by the Department of Home Affairs. So we have made life much more easier. Last month I met with Business Leadership SA. I presented on them of what they need to do in terms of ensuring that we ease the process. We are now going to be implementing what we call an e-permit or e-visa system, which is also going to make it easy because people will be applying online, will be adjudicating remotely in our hub in Pretoria. So we are going to make it easy because we do want to make it easy. I think it must be indicated that we as a Department of Home Affairs, we're just not trying to make processes cumbersome, but we want to ensure that whoever is coming to the country is coming legitimately. We've got all the information about that particular individual, and then we are able to process those issues as quickly as possible.
All right, well, we'll hold you to that. Thank you for coming in tonight to explain. Acting Director General of Home Affairs, Thulani Mavuso.